Vishakha, I'm really grateful. It's like a rather odd time for most people, 6:30 in the morning, and
No,
yet
no, no. I only had to give up on my work, so the compromise was only that, and that's okay. So it wasn't like I had to wake up extra early or any such thing, but it's still crazy how a
I'm
commitment to yourself doesn't stress you as much as a commitment to somebody else.
really
And a commitment made to 10 of you did make me check my uh, alarm at least 3 to 4 times. I mean, I remember 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock.
My God.
Whereas when I put an alarm to go to sleep and get up in the morning to go for a walk, you don't get up and see. Like, "Eh, bajega, nahi bajega, to theek hai." But that was also making me think. I said, why is a commitment to self not equally important?
Mm.
It doesn't mean I should have sleepless nights every day, but I'm just saying that a perspective, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. That's a brilliant perspective.
but that's reality.
Correct. Absolutely. And in fact,
Most
incidentally,
of
that's
us.
exactly what we were discussing just before, you joined us.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, how interesting. Yes. So, welcome, Vishaka. I'm
Thank you.
honored and privileged and hugely grateful that you took out
Not
time.
at all. Please, you embarrass me.
No, I mean, it's like you gave me time some time back to interview you, and there was this wonderful article that came out that a lot of everybody's read the article, by the way.
Which is what I've not been able to access and read. So maybe
Oh,
I'll, yeah, yeah, yeah. So maybe I read it when you sent it at that time.
yeah.
But I think you guys are doing some amazing work. When I look at all the kind of projects that you are running, and just the names of the projects itself are so inspiring. So when I was telling my family yesterday that I have a 6:30 mentoring session, and they were like, "Why?" I said, all these women don't have time after that. They're busy working. So the only
Oh, we
time
have
they
a
have.
gentleman also, Vishaka.
Yes, I noticed Vignesh too. So hi Vignesh.
Hi.
So I said, that's how much they're committed to self-development that they're willing to do that. And the least I can do is um, be there if I can contribute in any small way with whatever has happened. But I think you guys are inspiring. Let's put it that way. I mean, you've inspired me to be here. So,
Thank you. So what we'll do is we'll go around the room, Vishaka. We'll have each one. So you are already well known here in the group. So yeah. So
thank you.
we'll have everybody introduce themselves quickly. So let's check in as to what you're feeling, and then quickly introduce yourself as to what you do, and then we will go around the room and then start a Socratic discussion where each one will then have the question to ask and then tag the next person. Yeah. So yeah, who'd like to start? Yes, Vignesh.
Hi, Vishakha. Thanks for joining in. And it was so coincidental that you were speaking about the same thing what we were discussing just before you joining in. So
Yes.
I'm excited, looking forward to the session. And I am Vignesh, CEO and founder of Vault InfoSec, information security company from Chennai, operating primarily from Chennai, India.
Yeah, let's go ahead and tag someone, Vignesh.
Yeah, I'd like to tag Aditi.
Thanks, Vignesh. Hi, Vishakha. It's so
Hey.
good to see you and meet you. I'm Aditi Malhotra. I'm working as a project manager with Sapin Consulting based out of Gurgaon. And I'm super excited I read the article which Jyoti shared and I'm, super excited to, have a conversation with you and looking forward to the session.
Same here,
And
Aditi.
I tag Anju.
Thanks, Aditi. Hi, Vishakha.
Hey.
Really excited to be here. I was really looking forward to meeting up and connecting and being a part of this meeting this morning. I'm Anju and I'm based out of Gurgaon. I'm a well-being coach. And ever since I read the article, I have been really excited to, for this meeting. And I tag Arti.
Thanks, Sanju. Hi, Vishakha. This is Aarti Shori, and I work with PepsiCo as a HR business partner for HQ functions. I'm super excited and inspired and looking forward to learning from you.
Thanks, guys. I'm going to be so embarrassed by the end of this that I'm going to have to hide.
Right.
I tag Nehal.
Thank you, Aarti. Hi, Vishakha. I'm really excited to meet you and meet another women role model. So I lead operations and marketing at Eternia, which is a startup incubated by the Aditya Birla Group. I tag
Sorry, who did you tag, Nehal?
Deepti.
Hi, Vishakha. Thank you for being here, and looking forward to learn deep insights from you. And I'm very excited to have you here. I run a company called Deliver Delights, and I work as a nourishment coach for new mothers with babies and toddlers. Thank you. And I tag Shreya.
Thank you, Deepti. Hi, Vishakha. It's really nice to have you here. I'm Shreya. I'm a pediatrician and neonatologist at a tertiary care center in Gurgaon. I run my own clinic also. I'm really excited for today's session. I tag Neela.
Thanks, Shreya. Hi, Vishakha. Very good morning. I feel extremely grateful to be in this space where I am interacting with a woman leader, and I'm greatly looking forward to the insights. So I run a community called Gurgaon Moms, and it's about creating an online safe space for women and to help them get closer to their dreams and goals. Thank you. I tag Aditi.
Thanks, Neela. I'm done. So I think it's
Yeah, all right.
yes.
So Aditi, maybe you can start with your first question.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So my question is like, definitely as a working woman, and raising kids along with that, there might be some challenges that you might have come across. And I want to know like what all challenges that you faced in your journey, and how did you overcome those challenges as a working mother?
So I have a small request of all of you, and Jyoti, if your format permits that, I would like it to be a little interactive. So if at any point of time you feel that anything that I say is very global or gyan and you don't really relate to it, I'd be happy for you to push back and say, can you elaborate a little more or some such thing? Because I will be toggling between not getting too detailed into my own story and giving you a kind of a direction that you asked for. Since I'm going to be toggling between that, if you think I've gone too way high and I'm doing 100,000 feet global gyan, please push back. That's a request I have of all of you. So ask a follow-through question. So I understand that I'm making motherhood statements and I'm not giving you statements that you can apply. Because at least for me, the objective will be that if you have takeaways that you can actually implement, then I think this one is really, really well spent. But if you're going to have stuff that you can probably Google on the internet, then I think it's a waste of all our time together. So that's a belief, and that's where I'd like to work towards. Is that okay?
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Vishakha. I just love the groundedness, that you bring to the whole conversation, and I think that's what I've always loved about you.
No, thank you. I don't know the average age group. The reason why it matters is because we're all growing up in different times with access to very different with support and challenges. I'm 57. When my son was born, I was 27 years old, and that was 1991. What did we have? We didn't have cell phones. We definitely didn't have anything beyond the local cable TV. We had support systems. We had a less challenging world. I left office. Nobody could contact me until I reached home because there were only landlines. I left home. Nobody could contact me until I reached office. What is the advantage of that? You had spaces. It was far easier. When we talk about work life, it was far easier because you had physical spaces separating home, work, travel. Your own zone of nobody can reach you. So your music and your cassette player. So that you had those distinctions. So just wanted to give you that background as a setting to say the challenges. The challenges for me were when the earliest challenge was when my children weren't being looked after very well, and I would have no access until I got back home. The two, three of them, which I still remember so vividly, though it's like 28 years back, is one when I came home. I wasn't well. I'd got to work. I wasn't well, so I came back by 11 o'clock, and I had a male servant at that time. And I came home to find my son lying in his own caked up shit uh, with with him in the arms of my servant. So the servant boy was sitting on the rocking chair. He had my son with him. They were both sleeping, very peaceful. But the kid was in his own shit. He didn't even clean up. And I don't know since when. It broke me. It really, really broke me. I mean, there was a time I said, this is not the way to look after kids. The other instance that it happened was when I came back, and so I moved him out. I put him in a creche. I thought, having another woman to look after will be better. There was a language barrier. I'm a Kurd, married to a North Indian, and then I moved to Delhi. And I reached back in the evening to that Punjabi lady who turned around and she told me, she said, दिन भर रोता रहा, मुझे समझ में नहीं आया उसको क्या चाहिए. He wanted water and nobody understood he wanted water, and they kept giving him everything else other than water, and he was absolutely crying the whole day. These kind of tend to break you. So I think if you ask me what are your biggest challenges, there have always been emotional challenges. There have always been challenges that that question your belief system. So if I had a belief system that being a mother meant I place my children above me, then that belief system keeps interfering with you, it keeps pushing you, it keeps punching you when you're trying to do something against that belief system. So I would want to leave it at that. I want to say the biggest challenges are the challenges to your own belief system. And then you look at that belief and say, and you look at your objective. And then you say, okay, is this belief system serving my objective? The reason I'm guys expounding about this is probably because this answer will work for a lot of your questions. And today, I can turn around and say, look, you have salt, you can't make kheer. I mean, you need to decide whether you change your kheer or you change your salt. I'm finding the words for it today, but at that time, I didn't have the words to express and say, you know what, working is equally important. It was also easier to justify it, Aditi, because I needed the money. That extra income I was earning was making a difference to the family. So it was easier to pick up yourself, dust, and say, it's okay, I'll put more checks and balances in place. I will have more supervision. I will make sure this incident does not repeat. Put your emotions aside, become more practical, find more solutions to the problem, and go on to do what you want to do. I think long answer, did it make sense?
Yes, definitely. And thanks for that. It's quite relatable. Like as a working mother, I myself, I completely agree to it. Like you have to challenge your belief system a lot of times when, you say that your kids are actually, the first priority for you, but at the same time, your work takes a lot of time and your bandwidth during the day, and you're not able to give the enough time and energy to them as, we intend to and commit to. But at the same time, you keep on challenging your, belief system and keep on moving ahead. And that's the, I think, learning. Thanks a lot, Vishakha. It was really good.
Go ahead and tag someone, Aditi.
I tag Nehal.
Thank you, Aditi. My question to you, Vishakha, is that what actions in your early days of your career helped you reach where you are today? What actions or habits?
Habits is so much more easier to answer, actually. So I've got to pick the easy option. Habits is crazy amount of discipline. I think I was disciplined to a fault, to getting on people's nerves. So if I had a schedule, so I remember very, very clearly when I moved to the private sector in 2000. And that's when we had laptops, and that's when we had mobile phones. So the whole work culture is very different. People expected responses back. It wasn't key, you reach office at 9:30 and I will see my physical mail, right? Letters pade away. That whole change had happened. I know many of you don't relate, but the reason I keep drawing to it is how much adaptation has happened in any person's work life. So if I've spent 32 years, I moved from a paper-based, non-phone based to this completely connected world, and now to a virtually connected world. Um, and and I think I'm actually thinking as I'm responding to Nehal, and probably that is one very important quality. Ability to adapt to changing circumstances and take it in your stride and say, okay, which habit do I need to drop and which habit do I need to pick? I was this crazy disciplined person, so I'd get up at 4 in the morning and finish my meals by about 6 o'clock. Then I would cook for the kids, pack their lunch boxes, wake them up at 6:45, send them off to school at 7:30, and then take the chartered bus at 8:15 to go. I was in Delhi at a long time, since many of you are from Delhi. Take the chartered bus to go to office. Then, of course, I had my own car, so then I would start driving. But if you ask me one habit, I think it's discipline. I had rigor. My schedule was watertight. I don't think I could have got so much done if I hadn't had that rigor.
Thank you, Vishakha. Yeah, thank you. I tag Neela.
Thank you, Nehal. Hi, Vishakha. So my question is about long-term strategies. When creating long-term strategies, how to stay unwavered, because the world around us is changing, the situations keep changing, and there are way too many temptations to get distracted. A follow-up question is, what are the checkpoints that I should have, and how often should I keep revisiting my long-term strategy?
So I frustrate a lot of people by my willingness to change a decision when I have new data. And since you're it's even at small decisions. Okay, now it doesn't even have to be big decisions. So I can recollect an example very clearly where we had an HR discussion in the office, and this was sometime in December, and we said, okay, who's been working, who's not been working. There was this one particularly sticky candidate that we weren't sure we should be promoting or not. We hadn't promoted that person for 2 years in a row. So I was sitting and discussing this with my HR and with a few other people, my deputy CEO, and everybody felt very strongly that we should not be promoting that individual. And I looked at it, I heard them out and said, I said, okay, fair, we won't promote. Then when it came to March, I said, look, before we're rolling out the list, can we have a quick sense check to see if there's anything new that we have gathered in these 3 months which could change our decision? And it frustrated the hell out of them. They're like, why can't we close issues? Why do we keep reopening issues? We made a decision in December. And I said, because in these 3 months, the following 4 things have happened. This individual has gone and got themselves a degree. This individual has gone and got themselves this. Now there is new information on the table. Now you need to see whether that new information is making an impact to your decision. And the decision, until implemented, can be revisited if you have new information. If you have no new information, don't touch it. But if the world has changed and there is new information and you don't touch it, you will feel it. It's like wanting to go to Pune, right? And you decide, I'm going to go to Pune, I'm going to drive from Pune to Pune, I'm going to take the expressway. You get up in the morning and somebody tells you the expressway is closed. I want to say I made my decision and I'm sticking to the expressway.
Right.
I think to answer the question, when do you revisit? Definitely every time you have new information, you need to see if that information is relevant enough for you to relook at your long-term strategy. I think for me, that is the key. Are the assumptions that I have made when I made my long-term strategy, are the assumptions and circumstances continue to be valid today? And if they do, I don't see any reason to change it. And long-term strategies, I would say long-term goals should be more inflexible than long-term strategies. I don't know if you meant the same thing when you used the word strategy, but I am differentiating between goals and strategy.
Yes.
So long-term goals, are reasonably more inflexible. Like I always wanted to be a coach. I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to be a teacher. Let's put it, early on when I was in my early 20s. I wanted to be a teacher, and I keep joking about how my sister went on to become a professor, my brother went on to become a professor, and I went on into the corporate world, and I was the one who used to be shouting at the rooftop saying, "I'm going to be a teacher. I'm going to be a teacher." So I never managed to become one, and eventually, somewhere, something that found, and today I'm a coach. I will get my official certification as an executive coach from Manila.
Congratulations.
So the goal doesn't change. Because I don't think a coach and a mentor is too different from a teacher. It's the spirit, right? It's about the spirit of sharing, the spirit of contributing to the intellectual growth of people, to the spiritual growth of people, to the personal growth of people. That's what a teacher is all about. It's not about teaching maths or physics or science. It's about what do we want to teach. But the path to it was completely different. It wasn't a regular path. Makes sense?
Yes, it does. And thank you for differentiating goal and strategy. I think I did get a little confused there, but since you differentiated now, I get the drift, and also the analogy helped. So thank you so much. I'll tag Dr. Shreya.
Thank you, Neela. So my question to you, Vishakha, is did you face workplace gender bias? And if you did, how did you deal with it?
Oh, plenty, Dr. Shreya. So much. You understand bias only if you know what non-bias looks like. If you don't know what good is, you don't know that something bad is bad. If you live in bad, you don't know that's actually not good. Did I make any sense there? You need to know what an unbiased work environment looks like for you to be able to identify that you are in a biased work environment. No, I didn't connect with you. Let me try an analogy. Kheer. If somebody gives you kheer without sugar in it, okay, and that's how your definition of kheer has been. When you actually get kheer with sugar in it, you don't know that that's how real kheer is supposed to be. But once someone has told you this is how real kheer is kheer made with sugar, then you realize that the kheer that you've been eating all along is really not.
Yes, true.
So until you know what an ideal is, until you know what good is, you don't know, you can't recognize bad. So for a lot of us, when we grew up, we didn't know what gender bias meant. We took it for granted. I was slightly fortunate in the sense I grew up in the South and I had very progressive parents. We weren't very well-to-do. Economically, we were not great. But from education perspective, my mom was in MA in dance with a LLB. My father was an LLM. My grandfather was an MLA. So you had all of this illustrious intellectual. We didn't have food. I probably had 2 sets of clothes that I wore to college. We didn't have money, but there wasn't dearth of. So I knew what equal opportunities to women were. But bias at workplace, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know. So for a long time, I didn't understand bias. I didn't know I was being treated with bias. Let's put it that way. Until I started experiencing what I started reading about it, I started getting exposure to it, and very coincidentally, today we've moved to the word bias. We were still stuck with harassment and discrimination. Bias is a far more evolved version. Discrimination is plain in your face. Harassment is like in your face. I mean, bias is so much more subtler. We've gone there. We've reached the path today of bias as compared to harassment. And coincidentally, the first judgment on defining sexual harassment came in 2000 in a case which says Vishakha versus state of Rajasthan. That Vishakha is not me. I wish it was, but it is not me. That was the first time that sexual harassment got defined. Okay, I mean, it really shows you guys are really young, right? I mean, you don't relate to 2000 at all. But 2000 is when sexual harassment got defined. And that's when you started understanding how, if you're sitting in a meeting room, and Vignesh, this is not meant to embarrass you or anybody else, I'm just making a very factual statement. As I would walk into this meeting, and there was this gentleman, and I remember going back and telling my colleague, and he said, "Oh my God!" And I would actually take my sari and I'd cover my, shoulder with it, and basically not be visible anywhere, anything from neck downwards. And I said, every time I walk into the meeting with this gentleman, I said, I feel like he's stripping me naked with his eyes. That's the feeling I used to get, and I didn't know that was harassment. I only knew I was extremely uncomfortable walking into meetings with this gentleman. So I'm sorry, I went off into my own story here. But did I do anything about it? No, because I didn't even know I could do something about it. So you just adjusted, adapted, moved on, tried for different department posting. And in the private sector, you quit jobs. So, honestly, that's how I've dealt with it all my life. I know that my daughter today, when she hears some of it, and she says, "God, Mom, you were such a coward." And I was like, don't judge me on the basis of the tools available to you today. Judge me on the basis of the fact that we didn't even know gender discrimination at that point. हमको मालूम नहीं था कि we were being harassed. हमको लगा ऐसे ही है. This is what life is. So that's what I keep saying. I said you need to. Whereas it was so easy to fight within a house. I mean, my husband has had a very tough time dealing with me because I keep talking equal rights and gender and equality and equal opportunity. And I said, if your son can drink, why can't your daughter drink? Either you say both of them can't drink, but you can't have different rules for your son and daughter. It was so easy for me to do all of that at home because I knew what unbiased growing up was. I was given equal opportunities between my brother and me. There was zero discrimination. In fact, I was the one who was given in charge of finances and stuff like that because I displayed more acumen to managing money. But when you don't know what is right or what is ideal, how do you recognize wrong? And that's why education is important. That's why it's very important to keep talking to people about what is right. Long answer, Dr. Shreya. Did I answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Vishakha. I tag Deepti now.
Thank you. Hi, Vishakha.
Hey, Deepti.
I want to ask you, what is the not invented by me syndrome? Actually, I was really stuck on that, and I really want to know that what it is and how it. it is affecting you and how it is affecting your work and your personal life?
Oh, huge, right? So when you walk into any organization and you see something which is already working, okay, and you can't take credit for it because you didn't put that process into place, or you didn't put that system into place, or you didn't produce that product, and you have zero contribution to it. Okay, but you recognize that it is good, you recognize it is working, and you encourage it and allow it to continue and feed it and and nurture it and provide whatever support that needs without getting stuck up in ये मैंने तो नहीं किया था ना ये credit तो मुझे नहीं मिलेगा ना ability to take credit for allowing an idea which is not yours, which you haven't influenced in any way, which existed even if you didn't exist, but allowing that to happen is, I think, very, very, very critical in an organization. That's when you will get new ideas, and that's when you don't waste time. For instance, when I this is more corporate, when I joined in the FirstLife in 2000, I joined in the FirstLife, quit, and then joined again at some point. So I joined in 2011 as chief business officer. I quit in 2012, joined, and that's a different story. Quit in 2012, joined back in 2015 as a CEO. One of the things I used to admire about the organization were the values. And I have looked hard and I've looked far. I have not found, these action-oriented words as values in any other organization. Our value system is do more, be honest, think new, be helpful. It's very hard not to live your values. Okay. And one of the first things that most people do as a CEO, you walk in, you want to make your impact on values, mission, vision, all of this, right? I mean, what kind of a CEO are you if you don't even have your organizational values as something you have contributed? And I didn't touch it. I said, I don't think I can better this. These are brilliant values to live by. I can't find a fault in this one. So that's what I mean. When you don't touch something which everybody else expects you to touch. जैसे values तो CEO की होनी चाहिए, मैंने कहा नहीं है ज़रूरी, because these values are serving us, they serve the organization. Let's just spend more time in deepening them. Let's spend more time sharpening. Let's improve. So I think, I don't know, I managed to give an example. So that's not invented by me syndrome. So don't get into, is this mine or not? When did I bring this to the forum? To give a more global or to give a more macro example, it's like the Narega scheme or the Aadhaar card. Neither Narega scheme or Aadhaar card was actually introduced in the BJP government. They were both actually brainchilds of the Congress government. But the Modi government recognized the potential of these two ideas and made sure that these two ideas grew into the momentum that they grew. He gave the, and I'm not showing any affiliation to any political party here. I'm just trying to give an example that everybody can relate with. Whereas you see so many schemes that get launched by one government, they all get thrown out by the other government. Right? So that's the not invented by me syndrome. You need to be very confident of yourself to be able to take somebody else's idea and run with it because it serves the purpose.
And how do you, can you please just elaborate a little bit on, how it is related to your personal life?
Not invented by me in personal life.
Is that affecting you in that?
So in a personal life, it does. It's not as much as the not invented by you syndrome, which impacts. But in personal life, I think what really impacts is when you haven't been able to deliver the role expectations. In personal life, it took me a lot of struggle to overcome the fact and say it's okay if I'm not around to give hot food to my children, for instance. It's okay if my living mate knows more about the food preferences of my children than I do. I still struggle with it. I still struggle with it when my living says, Pritesh, मेरे को ये नहीं अच्छा लगा. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. I mean, you do it, but it still hurts. So I think to a certain extent that point about it's okay. If there's someone else who's doing a better job of it than you are, you don't have to hang on to it. And, it helped me a lot, and my son doesn't even know this, and he keeps saying, "Oh my God, Mom, you give me credit for something I didn't even know I did." But it was such a game-changing moment for me when he was in his 9th standard. I came back home. No, sorry, 11th. We were working on an economics project, and he had to turn in a project on how oil prices impact the commodity prices, and it's some inflation. What's this thing? Gold bullion impacts or something. I don't remember the topic. And we were sitting, and I was telling him how to do it. And while we were sitting and talking, and my mother-in-law was at home in those days, and he said, "Aaj to amma ke haath ke parathe khaye." I ate 6 parathas for lunch. Wow, it was so amazing. And my first reaction was, Ritesh, I'm so sorry I'm not around when you come home, to be able to do. And I remember him saying, "Mom, you feed me intellectually. She feeds me physically. That's okay." Coming from a 15-year-old kid, that gave me a lot of confidence and changed my own perceptions. It's okay. I contribute differently. And we all can't contribute. So you stop the competition between trying to be Superman. If stay-at-home moms are able to provide intellectual, physical, emotional support to their children, they're not being role models of what they want their children to be. So a working mom is probably being a role model in what the child should be, without necessarily having to stand in the kitchen for 2 hours to eat. But at least, and it's okay. Neither of them is right or wrong. It's about what is your goal and what's the strategy you want to adopt for that goal. So that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Thank you for so much for this. Thank you. And I tag Aarti.
Thanks, Deepthi. So my question, Vishakha, is a little personal, and that is that how much time do you give to yourself, and what do you do in that? And also, how much time do you decide is good enough?
So time to myself has changed over the years, I think. It is never going to be constant, and it will change over the years. And what do you do with that time with yourself also changes. So as I told you, for me, when I moved, when I was in the public sector, that was prior to 2000, from 1980. Chartered buses. So chartered buses, reading a book, no phones, nobody could contact you. So, you had friends that you made in chartered buses, or you could just pick a book and read. So that was my go-to. Reading a book in the bus on the way to the office or back. My world. Then when I had my own car, then it was music. Driving, music. I still love traveling from Patpargash to Gurgaon because it gave me 1.5 hours of music. So So, driving, listening to music, and maybe even talking to friends or family, whatever personal stuff that you want to get. There was a point in time I had zero personal. I wouldn't say that I have always had this, and that's a choice that you make. And I think that's when we were traveling, and it was slightly more senior position where you had cell phones, you had laptops, you had flights to catch. I think those about 10 to 12 years literally was grabbing 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes in between. So it was 10-minute time in the aircraft, after you boarded when you could no longer use your laptops and mobile phones, till the seatbelt sign got switched off, then again you would pull out your laptop and you would start reading. So you started learning techniques of harnessing those 10 minutes. I learned a little bit of meditation techniques, and I learned how to do power yoga and power naps in your head, while sitting in a flight. And I wasn't in a senior enough position that I was traveling business class, but I wasn't in a junior enough position that I could that I wasn't traveling. And there were a lot of day trips, lots and lots of day trips. Day trips means you get up in the morning at 5 o'clock, take that bus at 7 o'clock flight, come back in the evening at 7 o'clock, reach home at 9 o'clock, or sometimes reach home at 11 o'clock. Those were tough days, but you're younger, so I think you're more resilient. I feel I'm rambling on this question, I think. So can you come back and ask me the question again? I feel I'm rambling. Okay. If it makes any sense to you? No, I don't think.
No, I think what my answer is that, it changes with time, and pick up opportunities as and when you get. And, listen to your heart, what makes you happy, and do it with no constraint of where you are and what you're doing is what I got.
Fair. And I think what you need at different points of time is very different. I think I'd just like to add that. Personal time, why do you need personal time? What do you want to do with your personal time is also different. In that whole traveling space I was talking about, I didn't really feel the need for personal time. I was quite content with what was happening. In fact, after becoming the CEO, you realize you need personal time far more than attending the other things. And I think it's got to do with the fact that something or other is always on your mind. When you're working in roles, and many of you are good, heading your own functions, heading your own departments. When you're working in when you're in an action-oriented job, it's very easy to see tangible results. And so you take action, you get the results, you're satisfied. Sometimes you don't even need personal time because every action of yours is leading to results. And that gives you a lot of satisfaction. When you are in a space where this is action, it's all thinking all the time. And then you're switching, you're not sure whether your thinking was right, you're not sure whether the direction you gave was right. Sometimes you give up direction and then it's implemented completely differently from the way you wanted it implemented. And then you're holding the baby with the consequences of it and trying not to get frustrated, saying that is not the way to be implemented, and being supportive of them and saying, that's okay, that's fine. I don't think it was path A, it should have been path B. And then, but Vishakha, you didn't tell me. And I said, I agree, let's move on. Whereas deep down you're thinking, that was tactical. That decision I left to you to decide. I didn't think I have to spell it out to the last mile. I told you this is the goal. I expected you to think through on how to go about it. Or come back to me, with questions, and not come back to me when you don't reach that goal. So, but you don't want to say that because the other person tried their level best. You can't fault them on their intent or action. When you can't fault them on intent or action, you've got no business criticizing them. So that's, I find, and I take a lot of personal time. I take up from And this lockdown has been great that way because I used to take only 6 to 7, 7:30, and then I had to, get ready to go. Now, since you don't have to go anywhere, you're saving that 1 hour of drive time. I almost from 6 o'clock in the morning to about 8 o'clock or so, 8:30 is all my time. I walk, I meditate.
Thank you. I tag Vignesh.
Yes, don't mind if I have some tea while we're talking.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, Vignesh.
Sure. So, thank you so much. And that was one of the questions I had, Aarti. Thank you for asking that. And my question to you is, what is the biggest mistake that you have done, and what is your learning from that?
So many of them. Which one should I pick? I think early on, I would almost say for the first 15 years of my career, one of the things I used to do is revisit decisions made in the past with information available in the present. And trust me, I couldn't articulate it the way I'm articulating it today. But it's commonly known as regret, the word that is used. Should have done this, shouldn't have done that. That's the part I should take. And I don't know at which point of time I decided to start writing down my decisions and the circumstances, because I think the emotional trauma was killing me. And these were all personal decisions. There were very little to do with official decisions. There were personal decisions of choosing to go to work when my son was not well, or choosing to travel when it was my daughter's birthday, and prioritizing something different than the norm or than the expectation. And after a point of time, I started writing down. I said, okay, hold on, you know what? I'm not a bad person. I'm not a bad mother. I love my kids hugely. So if I made these decisions, which are unpopular decisions, then I must have had reasons for doing it. I've forgotten the reasons now. Because you forget, right? The process, you take a decision. The consequences and the decision stays, but the thinking behind it, everybody forgets, including you. So I started writing down. What were the circumstances under which I made this decision, which is not populist. And therefore, at any point of time, it would come up in the later and say, "Arey, tum to, घर पे ये सब चल रहा था, तुम तो घर छोड़ के चली गई." हाँ, वो मेरे CEO आए हुए थे और नहीं जाती ना तो मेरी नौकरी चली जाती and मुझे पैसे चाहिए था. I need the job or whatever. And that gets you back your confidence. It builds back your self-esteem, because when otherwise instead of giving an explanation and instead of having a rational thought process, you just become diffident. You just become defensive. When somebody would say that तुम तो चली गई थी, and would be like, हाँ तो ठीक है ना, तो क्या हुआ? Or you would attack, because there was a guilt already that was within you, and that people play on, with their comments. But you made a choice in your rational mind with some assumptions. Those assumptions didn't play out. That's different. You can't blame yourself that the assumptions didn't play out.
So,
makes sense?
Yeah. So you're saying it's our instinct, and we can't say it's wrong. It's a timely decision that we have taken.
Could be wrong, but you made those decisions on the basis of certain set of information available to you and certain set of assumptions. So, for instance, if I make an assumption that the maid is going to come in at 9:30 and leave at 9 o'clock. Say, so I'm leaving you guys alone only for half an hour. The maid doesn't come in at 9:30. Okay? And then you start blaming yourself. मुझे नहीं जाना चाहिए था. Stop. Stop. If you had known she was not coming in at 9:30, would you have gone? No. Did you have any reason to believe she's not coming at 9:30? Did she send a message? Did she call? Did she not pick up your call? Did you reconfirm before you're leaving and say, are you coming at 9:30? And she say yes. I mean, you did everything that you could to validate an assumption on the basis of which you made a decision. If that assumption doesn't play out the way it was supposed to play out, and you had no warning signals, you had no way of saying that your assumption was invalid, don't beat yourself up for the decision that you've made. Yes. Have you done everything that you could to validate your assumptions? Yes. So in future, please, if you got one more aspect, one more in your checklist to validate assumptions, add that in your checklist of validating assumptions. How many of us today call even before we leave and say, "Tum aa rahi ho na, is time pahunchoge na?" We do that, right? We have access to it. So validate your assumptions on the basis of which you're making a decision. Validate the circumstances and your understanding of the circumstances on the basis of which you're making the decision. And then if the consequences don't pan out the way you had envisaged because some assumption went wrong, as long as you could not have predicted that assumption, you have taken all reasonable care, insight in making the decision. Don't let it affect you. That's for me the single biggest learning. That applies in office, it applies. I think there's to give a more official example. I don't know if any of you heard about this Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana. Okay, this was a scheme that was launched by the Modi government, which was life insurance, which is 330 rupees for 2 lakhs. Superbly simple process. I thought it was a brilliant product, and it was really it was a good product. Now what happened? So you think about it and you say, you know what, it's fantastic. Your banks are PSU banks, so your promoters are PSU bank promoters. You need that product in your portfolio because they have to sell it. They can't sell it to the government, and so let's go ahead and do it. The product, what you didn't expect was anti-selection. You didn't expect that 30% of your claims will be early claims. So the moment that happened, the losses hit the roof on that one. Was there a lot of self-reproach? Like, I think this is going on YouTube. So, are the financials something that, the financial outcome of the decision, something that was palatable? It wasn't. But the strategic outcome of the decision that you are serving the requirements of your PSU banks who have a government mandate playing out, it's playing out. Now, do you want to beat yourself up? No. Going back in time with this new information, would you have done things differently? Maybe yes, but then you didn't have this information when you made that decision. So why are you revisiting decisions made with information you didn't have then? Make sense?
Yeah, very much. I think this is going to help me a lot. I asked a question, but you gave me an answer, which I'm currently doing.
Yeah, it happens to all of us.
Thank you so much for that. And I tag Anju.
Thanks, Vignesh. Vishakha, in the earlier conversation, we heard that you're an extremely disciplined person, waking up at 4 and managing different areas. So my question to you is that have you had a strategy which helped you in staying disciplined in your day-to-day life?
So, by the way, the waking up at 4 stopped a few years back. But,
That's okay.
it probably was there all through. I'd sleep at 9, okay, Anju. Before marriage, when I would get up at 4 to study, I would sleep at 9. The stretch happened, of course, post marriage, post kids. Then you sleep at 11 and you get up at 4. So I think that is a stretch. How did I stay on course? You're a coach, right? And this is something that I learned as I was getting certified for my coaching. So the NLI coaching that I did has these 4 stages of defining a goal, and they actually they say it's mining, defining, refining, shining, and when you have a shiny goal, it is a motivator by itself. So I remember one of my coaches, and I've picked up some 8 to 9 coaches over the past 6 months. And when we would work on goals, I remember one of my coaches putting down her goal as mom takes chill pill. And she wanted to be a mom who was cool, who wasn't, getting hyper about the children not listening to everything. And that was motivation for her to change her entire behavior. So I think I never ever wanted to be anything other than a working, other than a person. Never. I mean, even those wavering, even those self-doubts that you get when your kids are small, are because you're not able to manage, not because you've given up on your goal. So, even in that deepest moment, if somebody had said, do you want to give up your job and sit at home? The answer of yes would have been because I didn't see any other way to manage. In fact, and those are small areas where life, small areas of support where life takes a turn. Is when my daughter was born. My daughter was born with a flap in her heart. So it basically meant every time she would cry, she would go blue. So we were told that she shouldn't. And there was no need for surgery because it will heal. It's a flap, so the tissue will grow. But until the tissue grows, we need to make sure she doesn't cry. And she was a clinger, so she wouldn't stay with anybody. We couldn't leave her in creche. We couldn't leave her with a servant. I came to a point where mother picked up herself. She came from Hyderabad. She sat with me at home. She saw what I was doing 15 days, and she said, "I'm taking her and going." So she just picked up my daughter and went away back to Hyderabad. She said, "When the flap heals, you come and take her." So that was about 3.5 months. I think for me that was a turning point in my life because that was the time I almost gave up on my goal. And more because you couldn't manage, not because the goal lost. So what keeps you disciplined, what keeps you motivated is your conviction in your goal. How much it really, really matters to you, how much it means to you. And if that objective, you think all of you, any of you, just go back to any objective in your life that you were passionately, emotionally, intellectually connected to, and see how much you have given up for that. You will all have some example or the other in your life where you gave it all up because that goal meant so much to you. So in coaching also, there's one more coachee that keeps saying, "Mujhe ye karna hai." I said, "Kyun karna? That's the right thing to do. If I don't do this, this will not happen. Arey bhagte thodi na hai, karna to chahiye." When I told him, I said, "You know what? You will never commit yourself to this goal until you find why you want to do what you want to do, and you're passionate about it, and you're consumed by that goal. you will never put in what is required. So a one-line answer to your question is clarity of what you want. If you're committed to your goal, discipline is just the means to the end.
Thank you.
I hope I'm not giving too much gyan here, right? I hope all of you are able to relate to what I'm saying there.
I
don't know
love
what others, but I am sitting here totally inspired. So many learnings, Vishakha. Thank you so much. I think I'm thanking the moment I thought of you to invite you here.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for listening.
And you wanted to say something to Vishakha. You were saying something to Vishakha.
Oh, I'm loving all these beautiful experiences you're sharing right from your heart. I'm completely loving it, and thank you so much for all your insights. I guess this round is done.
Left, right? Nehal, you're done?
Yeah.
Yes, I am done.
So we can do the second round. So what I'll do is I'll bring it back to the gallery view. And anybody else has any other questions? What we'll do is at around 7:35, we will get into a review and reflection of the conversation that took place. So anybody who has, we'll take some last one or two questions, maybe 3 questions before we do the review and reflection. Yes, Nehal.
Vishakha, how was the transition to the role of a CEO? So what challenges did you face specifically during that transition?
So I think ability to...
Just a second, Vishakha. Nehal, your video is not coming on for some reason.
I can see myself.
You can? Everybody can see Nehal?
Frozen, actually.
No, we can't see him.
Yeah. You can hear Vishakha, is it?
Yes, I can hear her.
All right, so then we can continue, I guess.
Yeah, I just to clarify, I've got everybody on gallery view right from the word go. Okay, I mean I know that Jyoti changed it and I'm changing the settings back because I wanted to see everybody.
Oh, okay.
so I mean I have all of you on gallery view from the beginning. So just clarifying.
Okay. So I should stop spending energy trying to spotlight.
I mean I wanted to see everyone. So yeah, Neil, I think, when I was very fortunate that in the earlier organization, they believed in coaching, and I had an executive coach. When I was transitioning, as part of my journey as director of sales and marketing, and when I actually got this, got the job, and I was moving, and I told him, I said, so what the hope that you've got for me? And he said 2 things. He said one is, remember you're not subject matter expert for everything. If you don't hold people accountable for them being subject matter experts without getting involved in an ego issue that it's not my decision, you'll struggle because I was going into an existing organization, you already had people there and so on. It wasn't like you're creating your own teams, because the difference between creating your own team is you bring in people who then go to listen to you and you have an existing relationship and so on and so forth. I didn't want that. I wanted professional people. I wanted people who are great in their jobs. So he said, look at your CIO, who's the Chief Investment Officer. Supposing your CIO says that, I'm not going to invest in equity because I think the markets are very choppy. You can have a discussion on the views, but you have to leave the decision to that person and support the consequences of the decision. But if they're going wrong, then you can ask them to leave, but don't take over their job. Remember, you're no longer a functional expert. Until now, when you head a vertical, you are a functional expert. And that's and especially when you spend about think about it from 89 to 2015, how many ever years that is, you've grown functional, right? So you're very used to be in charge, or you're very used to making decisions for your function, being responsible for it, and directing people. And your team, you would set targets for them, they would do it. The entire objective of your team and yours is very aligned. Even one down to CEO, just, well, if you can picture it, right? If you're a director of sales and marketing and you've got a bunch of 2,000 people reporting to you, all of them and you have the same target, same alignment, which is getting to this number. The number can change. You can have buffers, you can have, more targets given out to some people and so on. But the objective of achieving sales is the same. There's no conflict there. Your team is not conflicted. Everybody wants to do business. Operational issues are here, but goal is not. When you become a CEO, each of your DRs actually has a different goal, and there could be conflicting goals. If your operations has a goal of underwriting profits, ensuring claims are paid, which are only right claims, getting policies issued, which are right, and you've got a sales who just wants to get their policies issued, there is conflict. You want to have a 5% incentive campaign, and your finance says there's no money for it, there's conflict. Whose side are you going to take? Are you going to contribute to company profits? Are you going to contribute to the top line of sales? Are you going to contribute to the stability of business? What is going to be the role you as a CEO are going to play? You pick any one side, then you're picking sides. How are you going to get that perfect balance, right? Where everybody is pulling completely in different in directions, and you have a taut top limb. That's ideal. That's ideal that everybody is pulling in between. But if that pressure is not absolutely equal, tarpaulin could tear. So it just needs to be stretched perfectly right in all directions. And as CEO, you can't take even one of those directions. You can't even take one of those as a stance. And which is where the advice that I got from my coach and the popular reading that you hear everywhere, that it's lonely at the top, actually falls into place. You realize why? Because you're not taking sides. You can't take sides. As to all the rest, did I relate? Did I answer that? So that's for me the biggest learning is that you can't take sides. You have to always have a holistic picture. You will always end up compromising. You will take a little from here, little from here, little from here, and then make it. So you've left nobody happy.
Thank you, Vishakha.
Yeah, who has the next question? Anybody? Last two questions. Vishakha, you have
I have a question, Jyoti. Okay, so I think probably I have this. I started as a one-person team, and today I have 8 to 12 people, including the volunteers. 12 of us in the team. Now, what happens is I lack, or where I can get better at, which I know is I will have to zoom out and look at things more strategically. But however, since I have been involved from day one, I get caught up in a lot of the everyday activities of the community and the organization itself. Now, how do I get more strategic about it? How do I consciously get strategic about it? Because what comes automatically and naturally to me is building the community and building the venture. But I think it's high time that I start looking strategically and take a macro view of the organization and its direction. But that is not coming automatically to me. So how do I condition myself?
I think you need to break up what you just said, Neela, into the goal, strategy, and action. I just put all those three together on paper. What's your goal and what's your strategy and what's your action plan? We're all very different. So if I have to take a simpler analogy, I decide I want to go to Pune. Sorry, I'm stuck on Pune. I don't know for what reason. I decide I want to go to Pune. Right? That's my goal. Okay. From a strategy point of view, then you decide whether it is a travel by flight, travel by road. Which are the big points, right? Which are the big strategic decisions that you have to make. Um, and once you, and that for that you will take into consideration various. Is it a day trip? Is it a how important is it to arrive there? What are the meetings timings? What works? What so you will actually have a plan around all of that and make those broad decisions. Then you'll move into the action plan. If you decide you want to go by car, then you will get into the action plan. Okay, make sure the driver is going to be there. Make sure that your car is going for servicing. There's petrol in the car. Those are all the implementation steps towards a decision that you've made to reach a particular goal. So it's the moment you break that up, and you know that some things are execution. And when it comes to execution, I don't know about you, but I know that I am a stickler for things should be just so. I've struggled, but I mean, I know there was a point where even if something was kept on the table slightly slanted when it should be straight, I would go and straighten it. And I got out of. I try hard to get out of it because then I learned a magic formula which worked for me, and which was how much of it on the goal. If you're going to be moving something from a 90% to a 92%, don't contribute. Because by contributing, you're taking away ownership. If you're going to be changing from 70 to 95, please, you have to, because then you're adding value to that person.
Okay, so if I have to give a specific example now, so I created the whole venture out of creating engagement in the community, and that is what comes naturally to me, and that comes. I'm kicked about it, right? But I've built a venture around it now, and it's high time I start looking at it as a venture and not just as the engagement part. But what happens is wherever there is a situation outside, then immediately I step into becoming the person. I get into creating the program again. I mean, I start creating engagement programs for the community again, losing focus of the end goal and things like that, because I kind of justify to myself that at the end of the day, what I need is it's a highly engaged community, and the whole venture is resting on it. So that's how I justify it to myself, and I know that it's not probably the right way to look at it. Probably the right way right now for me is to rise up and to have my eye on the strategic part, which I keep losing focus on.
So Neela, I don't think you can really take your eye off creating those engagement programs, right? Because that's the foundation on which you're building your venture. So that's like the quality of it's like a restaurant chain wanting to expand without focusing on the quality of the food. So focusing on this engagement is as important as putting your steps ahead in the future, because this is your product. This is what you're selling. So you can't compromise on your product quality at all at any point of time. So I think you should take that guilt away, whether am I. So what you need to figure out is when you're getting operational, you don't have time to be strategic.
Right.
So do you have somebody strong enough here who's doing it operationally? And that's where the analogy of, is your contribution going to take 74 to 90, or is it going to take 90 to 92? And is it okay? What's the impact of not stepping in and allowing that person to do it? Is it irreparable damage? Or can you let one bad event happen and tell them, look, this event didn't happen well because you didn't think through of XYZ, or we didn't think through of XYZ. So next event, let's build in all of these elements. Do you have that, what's the word I'm looking for? The space to be wrong. Now, if you don't, then you have to get them to run. You have to get them to run their programs past you before it's implemented. That's your product, so don't not focus on your product.
Got it. Thank you.
Vishakha, you have any questions for the group before we get into review and reflection?
I'd just love to know some of the challenges that some of you have faced actually.
Wonderful. So let's now, I guess, at 7:40, nearly 7:40, let's get into some review and reflection, which I always feel is far more important than, the real thing that we do, because that's where we get the juice of, and then really get to know what we really got. So who would like to begin with the review reflection? And we look at answering 3 questions. How's the conversation made you feel? How are you feeling in the moment? What's been your biggest insight? What did you see that you hadn't seen before? What did you understand that you hadn't understood before? And then look at sharing at least one action that you'll take as an outcome of that insight, of that seeing, as outcome of that understanding. And then go ahead and tag someone else. And yes, you will also promise the time by which you'll post your review and reflection on the group before you tag someone else. Because I always feel that it's important to document your learnings and your actions so that you can hold yourself accountable to that. Ultimately, the whole conversation would not add meaning if there wasn't one action that came out of it in your life, in your business. Who would like to begin? Yes, Dipti.
Well, I'm feeling very happy, very relaxed. Thank you, Vishakha, for overall insights. Like I really loved all the questions, all the answers. Thank you for that. And my learnings mean, you just validated. Of course, I am feeling like, okay, my question was the best. Actually, I was feeling that's what I want to hear. Like, I'm going to drop, of course, the super mom feeling. Like, I really feel what you have said. And I have written that sentence what your son has like told you, like, mom, you're feeding me intellectually. And the Didi is like, feeding me physically. That's what I have to take on. And I keep on feeling like, I'm not able to balance I cannot grow much. This is my limit, because if I grow more than this, I might not, able to take care of my family. So that has given me a lot of insight and a lot of intelligence that how I have to balance it, right? And of course, not invented by me is a wonderful insight. I have got it, and thank you for that. And my tiny action would be like, out of this room, I'll be feeling very confident that I have spent well my 6 to 8, and there is nothing like that, I have to be present there for tea, for breakfast, for whatever sort of. So I'm feeling happy about it. Thank you so much. And I'm going to post immediately. And I text you.
Yeah, before Share takes on, so the action you're taking is not feeling guilty anymore for not being a super mom.
Fantastic. Can I just offer something else? I think one of the things that we believe is that you don't make action plans of negative. You make forward making action plans. So rather than saying I will not feel that way, if you promise us to feel a positive, it's far more easier and inspiring to feel positive. So just my 2 bits on it. And as you were talking, Dipti, I had words for myself, which is outsource and supervise. We do that as CEOs of companies all the time, as CEOs of homes. Why do we believe that we can't outsource and supervise? So just wanted to leave that.
That is absolutely a fantastic action takeaway, outsource and supervise, Dipti. I think that's far better than, saying that, you'll not be a super mom. I think that there is some actionable that comes from here.
Absolutely. I got that. Thank you. Thank you for this.
Thanks, Vishakha. That was a great perspective. Yeah, Shreya.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Vishakha, for such a wonderful session today. And I'm feeling very happy. I'm feeling very relaxed. I was specifically impressed and inspired by the thing that discipline is a way, and clarity for your passion, the reason for your passion, the reason of your purpose, that should be very clear. So I am very inspired by that. My tiny action would be that even if I'm not feeling good for the day, I'll just be consistent in writing my daily action plan and for the next day. So that would be my action plan. And what was the next thing? I will write the review immediately after the session. Thank you so much. I'll tag Neela.
So sorry, I'm interjecting because I feel so when you say we're going to write, be consistent with action plan. Dr. Shreya may also recommend that you keep restating the goal to yourself.
Yes, sure.
I think.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thanks, Shreya. I feel inspired and I'm eagerly looking forward to seize the day now. So that being my mindset, I think there were a lot of takeaways from today's session, right? From what you spoke, Vishakha, about discipline, passion. But what is going to stick with me, one thing will be the last question that I asked, because I think we are conditioned. Anything that gives us happiness, we see it as a not so good thing, and we start questioning. So I'm going to feel proud about creating engagement plans moving forward. But what probably I should be doing, I think Jyoti and I have discussed this, but it's just come to my mind during our discussion, is that I probably will have somebody else to execute it. Execution need not be me. The ideas could be me. And thank you for reinforcing the fact that what my product is and how I should still be part of creating that product better and better. So that's my. So the one to do thing is yes. I'm going to proudly participate in all the engagement creation activities. Just see how I can give away the execution part to somebody else, thereby saving my time for more strategic activities. I will post the review the session thing by evening 6 p.m. today, Jyoti. Thank you.
So reflection, not so much review, Vishakha, we call it review and reflection, but it's like a reflection of, what conversation we had.
Yes, I love the 3 questions, actually. They're great questions that you're answering.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Neela. Please go ahead and tag someone.
I'm going to tag Vignesh now.
Thank you, Neela. And thank you, Vishakha, for all the insights that you have given. I'm so happy and grateful for being here today. Not only my questions, whatever questions that have been asked from the group has given me a lot of insight, but specifically, the one that is happening right now with me is the biggest learning that I'm going to take from here today. So not, intervening the decision making that the other people are making, and to be supportive in their decisions, be it a failure, but let them, make a failure and, learn from that. So I'm not giving that opportunity. I felt that when you said. So that's my biggest learning from today. And one tiny action that I'm going to take from today's session is I'm going to support them. Then looking always at their decisions, not intervening at some point in time, etc. So that's my tiny action from today's session. I'll be posting my insight just after the call.
Thank you, Vignesh.
And I tag Nehal.
Thank you, Vignesh.
So Nehal, 1 second. Oh, sorry. Vignesh, 2 words that can probably, just for you to remember what you're saying, if these words work for you, would be empower and enable. So because don't enable and don't, ask people to do things without, don't empower without enabling. So it's enable and empower. So don't tell them, okay, you're responsible, but you haven't given them the tools. Okay. So enable and empower is probably something that I just wanted to leave behind if that works for you. So sorry, Nehal. I didn't mean to be rude, but
it actually makes sense. Yeah.
You need words to to remember your action.
Correct.
Thank you, Vishakha, for really taking out time for this. I think it was a very insightful session, and I feel so inspired right now and excited for the journey ahead. Yeah, and there are a lot of great learnings, but one biggest thing which stuck is that we are all very privileged today because listening to your journey and the challenges you have faced in your life to reach this position. I think we are starting with a position of privilege already. So thank you for creating that way for all of us. That was. And another thing which I really learned is about how your roles transition from being a functional expert to be to somebody who is not a functional expert but sort of looking after everyone, and you cannot make everyone happy. So yeah, these have been some great learnings for me. My one tiny action will be to enable and empower my team much more, so that I can start practicing some of these things now itself. And Jyoti, I'll post my review and reflection right after the session.
Thank you, Neha. Go ahead and tag someone, please.
Yeah, I tag Aditi.
Thanks, Nehal. And thanks, Vishakha, for such an insightful session. It was really great hearing you, sharing your insights and your journey. So I'm feeling really inspired and settled with the thought, like there was some guilt which was there in me as a mother, working mother. And after, listening to you, so I'm kind of settled with thought. So thanks for sharing your, for sharing the insights. And learning, there has been a lot of learnings, like one is definitely discipline is just a way to do things. It's the clarity on your purpose is more important, and it's like conviction in the goal that keeps you going. So that's one learning I had. Another is like spending quality time with kids where you're feeding them intellectually, not just being with them and satisfying yourself. Okay, I'm around, but I'm not doing any value add to them. So that's important, to feed them intellectually, and that's important. So that's another learning I had. And third is like definitely like harnessing your time, whatever time you're getting, be it like 10 minutes, like you're utilizing it in a better way. And so that's another learning I had. And the tiny action that I'm going to take, even though the actions are also more like, one is I'm going to define my goals, like definitely in goals, strategy and action plan that you mentioned. So definitely whatever outcome I'm looking at, so that's something I'm going to implement now. And another thing is like outsource and supervise. That is also another action that I'm going to take at my home as well as at my workplace. So thanks for all the valuable insights. And Jyoti, I will be posting my review and reflection right after the session.
Thank you, Aditi.
Yeah.
Go ahead and tag.
And I tag Aarti.
Thanks, Aditi. So my biggest learning is that
How are you
empower.
feeling, first of all?
I am feeling calm and I'm feeling good as a mom. And guilt-free, honestly. And that is one thing which gets stuck, because even at home when there are lines drawn, when you used to travel to work, come back, there was this transition time we had. Now you open the door and your work housework starts, and there is no transition time. And that time if somebody comes and asks and you snap or you do something, but then I realized that it's all right to, it's okay for you not to be present at every place in the perfect manner. So it's okay. So that it's okay word has got stuck with me.
With your permission, Aarti, I just want to say one thing. I know I'm interrupting your flow. I'm doing it because I want to change your narrative and just see if it helps. Just remember your dirty dishes are going to be there till your dying day and after.
Yeah.
So the dust is going to gather on your sofa today, tomorrow, day after, and after. The children are not going to be around. So if you have to prioritize dusting over giving them 10 minutes, you just figure which is an opportunity you're not going to have later. So just wanted to, because there's so much conditioning in all of us to be good homemakers. We forget that that good homemaking came when we were full-time homemakers. It didn't come with being, the men don't have the conditioning of being good homemakers because they never brought up with the expectations to be full-time homemakers.
Yeah.
We're brought up with the expectations of being full-time homemakers and we're not. So we need to align to the conditioning that men have. I mean, I feel there's a lot to be learned from men.
Yes.
You look at how it doesn't bother them if there's a wet towel on the bed. They finish their call. If they want to read a newspaper, they will finish that newspaper. It doesn't bother them that there's a cup that is lying dirty on the table. What will you do? You'll first pick up that cup, go put it in the sink, and you've lost that 5 minutes available for you to read the headlines. I'm just saying there's a lot to be learned from about focus from the men around you. I'm not saying grudge them. The first reaction is to grudge, but I'm saying don't grudge, learn. See how they stay focused. Vignesh can talk about how he manages to stay focused, how he doesn't let dirty dishes and dirty sofas and unkempt house bother him and waver him from his focus, right? And I'm sure he figures it out someday. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to live in a pigsty. He'll figure it out, but he prioritizes.
I'm starting to remember what my wife usually says to me.
I'm just saying, I'm sorry. I interrupted your flow. I just wanted to tell you that, because it seemed to me that you were walking on the path of getting comfortable, snapping. And I just wanted to say, yes, be comfortable snapping. But what is the priority you're making? If you walked home and your child comes to you and you know that there is dinner to be cooked, would you rather order dinner from outside and spend time with your child?
Yeah.
Or are you picking up the dinner because of your conditioning? Or is that what you want to do? Sorry, I just had to bring that perspective in and say that you make a decision based on choice and not on conditioning.
Yeah. So, and my biggest learning is outsource and supervise, enable and empower. Both of the things I'm going to use in personal and professional life. One thing which I learned specifically, and I think everyone will resonate with me, is that it is possible to be grounded while being a CEO and be so calm and composed. So that is what I have learned while having this 2 hours of conversation and listening to you. My tiny action is that I think I'm going to make a choice at every second with what you said, that do I have a chance of doing it later? So that I'm going to take, and I'm going to ask to myself this question every minute. And my commitment for review and reflection is that I will do it at 11:30.
Thank you, Aarti.
I tag Anju.
Thank you, Aarti. I've had a wonderful morning. Thank you so much, Vishakha, for so many insights that we've received this morning, one after the other. And just while we were ending the conversation, what you said, learn from the men. This is something I've never heard before, because being a woman, being whatever, the conditioning and, being in that space is so strong that you don't realize the other side. And I think I'm going to take that as my biggest learning, that not being in the space of grudging and blaming and trying to teach the other person, learn from the other person, or from that space, that where is that conditioning, what is that conditioning that puts them in that space. I think I love that, and I'm going to make a note of it in my mind and in my heart and in my journal. Other than that, I think what I learned today was in the belief system. I think it got strengthened during the conversation, that believe in what you want to do, and all our strategies and all our actions can come from there. And my action would be not being overwhelmed by my schedule, rather be aware that what action am I taking now? How is it going to help me? That is what my action is going to be. Be aware of my actions. And I'm feeling very happy. If I missed saying, I'm feeling very happy and relaxed. And I would be posting my reflection right after the session. Thank you once again, Vishakha.
Is everybody done? Somebody left who hasn't shared their reflection from the conversation? Yeah. Vishakha, your turn to share your reflection from today's conversation. How are you feeling after this conversation? Did you have any learnings in engaging with the group with us? And what will you take as one action from here?
I'm feeling very privileged, honestly. It's. I think you were all wonderful, and the amount of genuineness and respect that I got out of this group has been very enabling and satisfying. We're all brought up with our own conditionings. One of the big conditioning, or which keeps working for me, which makes me very diffident, is Gyan Mat Do. And there's this whole very, very, very Hindi saying, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It says, Chaudhra and Matban. You guys familiar with it? So what, don't try to become the grand dame. So I've always been very diffident about sharing stuff, because, you don't want to be that person who is poking your nose into other people's affairs or trying to be very Miss Know-it-all. So you guys have made me feel very enabled today by the way you have received what I said. So thank you so much for that. It encourages and motivates me to do what I want to do, which is share learnings in any which way. I keep feeling that if I had known some of the things that I learned at 40, at 20, I would have been, my life would have been more enabled. I keep telling my children, saying that, guys, you have exposure today that most kids don't have. So you have to use that. So yes, thank you. Thank you all for that, for the way you have participated. That really enabled and inspired me. What is my action? I'm going to put up my hand more often, Jyoti. I do put it up quite often, but I'm going to be less diffident. I'm going to be more open and say, I hope it's helped someday. Because I think I see a bunch of 7 people, 8 people. Brilliant.
Thank you, Vishakha. I think, what I'm...
And thank you, Jyoti. I think I would be completely feeling the rest of that you. Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, yes.
So I said, I wanted to thank you, Jyoti. I think you have been a demonstration of not invented by me. Your willingness to bring on me onto this panel, or other people that you have been doing, is a brilliant demonstration of your confidence. And you're saying not invented by me. It's okay. I don't have to have all the answers. If there are other people who can add value, let me bring those other people to the forum. Because you could have been so possessive about these group of coaches, right? They're yours. You could have been very possessive about it. But the fact that you enabled an opportunity, I think is a brilliant demonstration of not invented by me.
Thank you, Vishakha. Vishakha, I'm so, I'm feeling very grateful, hugely grateful for, for the space that you created for us. I mean, I can feel the space that you've created here, that of a nurturing space, a gentle space, a soothing space that allowed each one to just stand up and ask, to you, and that created a space of authenticity and vulnerability here. So I want to thank you for that. And I think my biggest learning that I'm taking away from you is how you, so there is a distinction. Everybody got a very different way of looking at the same thing, and we call it as a distinction in our, in our world. And how you have given a phrase, very 2-word phrase to each distinction. And I thought that was very powerful. It allows you to remember that distinction instantly, right? I'm going to borrow that from you. And we have some 20 distinctions in our world. I'm going to, sort of give some 2-word or 3-word, catchword for each distinction so that it's so easily available to us. So thank you for that learning. That's the action. And what I also felt is that instead of just calling unicornians and Athenians just two projects, I could have called the rest of the world also. They would have definitely benefited a lot in engaging with you. And so next time onwards, the mentor speaks. So we have two formats. Mentor speaks is when we get mentors from outside, and expand is when we get people outside business to give a different perspective of life. So I usually hold the whole group together and expand, but mentor speak, I just call unicorns and Athenians. But I think the action that I'm going to take is I'm going to create the whole group to come together, because what you got in here was 360-degree view, a lot of perspectives. I mean, you made me look at the same thing from different perspective. That was hugely valuable for me. So I think it'll create value for everybody else also. Even if they are your peers, to look at this. I mean, just to get a different perspective. It's very, very. I think there's so much more we learn, and that is really bringing in the whole "not invented by me" syndrome. And I'm okay to learn from my peers as well, right? So thank you so much, and I'm hugely grateful.
And thank you, Jyoti. I loved this format. I loved having a group of 8 and a personal interaction. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Wish you all the very best in your endeavors. I think it's fantastic and very inspiring to see, how committed all of you are to what you're doing. So all the very best. Jyoti, feel free to reach out if any of them really want any follow-through questions at any point of time.
Sure.
All the best. Fantastic job, guys.
Thank you.
Unicornians. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. So folks, have a great day. It was a phenomenal speech today. And I'll see you guys 5:53, ready to start next week.